everybody, welcome back to This Random Journey. Today we are delving into the Atomic Habits book again. I read chapter 6 and chapter 7 this morning. I also read 5 chapters out of my Bible. And we finished up 2 Kings. So we're done with 2 Kings. We'll be moving on in the Bible reading to the next book of the Bible tomorrow. So in Atomic Habits, chapter 6, I have to say before I start talking about these particular chapters, is I think I like these 2 chapters the best so far. It's hard to say, but I really think that I like these 2 chapters the best so far. I've gotten a lot from these 2 chapters, and so hopefully I can get that across to you guys as I'm telling you about it. In chapter 6, it was motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. And so he began to talk about the environment that we have around us. And he said environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. And there was a formula that he gave from a professor or something. It's called B equals FPE. Its behavior is a function of the person in their environment. And so he started talking about designing your environment for you to be able to get success in establishing habits or being able to accomplish what you're wanting to accomplish. He gave an example of, I think it was an airport. They put a sticker of a fly in the urinal, in like where like they would go to the bathroom, and it reduced or it helped their cleaning efficiency by like 8%, I think, or something like that. It was something crazy because the guys would aim for this bug that was in the urinal. And they talked about being focused and having just that small little change in the environment changed the outcome. It says if you want to make a habit a big part of your life, then you need to make the cue a big part of your life. So it was talking about setting up cues for yourself in your environment. And he gave an example of he used to buy apples and put them in the crisper in his refrigerator. And he would forget to eat them. They would go bad. Then he decided to change his environment, and he put them instead in a big bowl, on the counter or on the table or something. And then it was in front of him, so he would eat it. And so he talked about just changes like that in our environment can really change the outcome of something you're trying to establish. He said that environment design allows you to take back control and become the architect of your life, but be the designer of your world and not merely the consumer of it. He talked about how there was a study done, and I think it was in a hospital, and they would place water and make it available at all the different stations in the cafeteria. Before, it was just a refrigerator with sodas and like those kind of drinks in it. And so by putting water in there with it, not even taking it away, but putting water in there as an option, and then also putting water in all the different stations in the cafeteria, it made it go like the consumption of water went up by like 25% or something crazy, just by making that one change of making it available. And the sales of soda actually went down. It says that the context is the cue. So it talked about, instead of looking at things as objects, to look at them as relationships. Everything around you, you have a relationship to. He talked about how when you sit down at the kitchen table to eat, your relationship with the kitchen table and that chair specifically is to eat. And then he talked about insomnia and how they did a study on people who haven't had insomnia, where they was laying down, and they said, if you cannot go to sleep or you do not feel tired, do not lay in your bed, actually leave the room and go to a different room completely and until you are tired, and then go to your room. And so they weren't allowed to look at their phones. They weren't allowed to do anything else in their bedroom or in their bed than sleep. And it actually helped their insomnia, and they was able to associate going to sleep with being in their bedroom, in their bed. It says that habits can be easier to change in new environments. And it was really cool because he gave an example of back in the war days, whenever they was doing Vietnam War, they went over and visited the soldiers, and a lot of them had gotten addicted to heroin. And they was talking about how they were worried about them coming and integrating back into society, and how it was crazy because it went against everything when they came back, that most of them, 9 out of 10 I think is what he said, immediately just stopped using heroin, and they were no longer affected by it. They didn't need it anymore, which back then was assumed that you couldn't become unaddicted from it. But he said it's because of such a big environment change. So they went from being over there where they were around it, they had the people that they knew was doing it, their friends was doing it, the other soldiers. It was just a part of the environment. And so whenever they got planted back into the society here, and around people that they knew that didn't do that and all that kind of stuff, they was able to just quit cold turkey. And it talked about that's why you'll hear of people going off to like a clinic and they get clean, and then they come back to their environment and it's not very long and they usually will turn back because of the environment. It's not because necessarily that they cannot stay away from it. It's because of the environment, the people they're around, the things that cue the addiction. Talked about one space, one use, and that kind of goes back to the idea of having a space for everything you do. So like, I'm going to eat at the kitchen table, I'm going to read my book in this certain chair. He said that if you don't have space, because he was talking about this and I was thinking my house is so tiny, you know, I can't have a room for everything, because he was talking at first about having different rooms, like you need an office for, you know, your office area, that kind of thing. And I was like, man, I don't have space for an office. I wish I did, but I don't. And then he said, well, if you have too small of a space, that you need to have what he called activity zones. I'm sorry, Susie's one in and the door shut, so that's why you keep hearing her. Something called activity zones. So if you have a small space, you need activity zones, which means basically you're going to have this chair is only for this activity, this chair is only for that activity. So you're going to have a reading chair, you're going to have a couch where you watch TV and be entertained, you're going to have your kitchen table, and that chair is going to be just for eating, that kind of thing. So I thought that chapter was really cool, and got me really thinking. And then the next chapter, chapter 7, really kind of just continued with that theme of environment changing. And it was called The Secret of SelfControl. And I was very intrigued by this title, to say the least. I was like, okay, well, I'd like to know, you know, what is the secret behind self-control? The first thing was disciplined people, and it had disciplined on the little, you know, disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower and self-control. So basically, they're setting up their environment, they're changing their environment to make it easier for them to have self-control, to be disciplined. So they're changing their environment. They're not having to work as hard. And I said that's really the key, is to make it to where you don't have to work as hard, and then you're going to be able to change bad habits, or to eliminate and kind of push those habits out. He talked about how once a habit has been encoded into you, that the urge to act follows whenever the environmental cue reappears. So he gave a story about a lady who was a smoker, and she used to smoke every time she would get on a horse with her friends to go on a horse ride. She would light up and she would smoke. Well, she had kicked the habit, but she also had stopped riding horses. And so it was years later, she got on a horse to go for a ride, and she immediately got the urge to smoke a cigarette. And she hadn't had that urge in like forever, years, he said. But it was because you do not forget. Those cues are still going to be there. And so he was talking about how they don't disappear. It's just that if they're put out of, the cues put out of the way, then you don't have that cue to make you want to do the bad habit or the thing. He said there's something called the cue-induced wanting. And he likened it to a bad habit leads to an outcome, which leads to a bad habit. So he said, like, if you, oh my goodness, Susie's driving me crazy. I don't know about you guys, but I'm about to go get her. So if you do a bad habit, let's say you eat a big old bar of chocolate, you know, candy bar, and it makes you feel happy in the moment because you wanted the candy bar, but then you start gaining weight, and so it makes you feel bad again. Well, you're feeling bad, so you decide to eat a candy bar, which then makes you feel good, but then it makes you feel bad in the long run because you're gaining weight or whatever, your health's declining. And the cycle is just round and round and round and round. He likened it to several different things. That was the one that just kind of stuck out to me. And so it's called the cue-induced wanting. So basically you're doing the bad habit. It's giving you a sense of pleasure, and then it's making the situation worse, which makes you want the thing again. He likened to a smoker again, how they are stressed, so they smoke, which makes their health worse, which makes them stressed, which makes them want to smoke, and it's just a continuous circle. It says you can break a habit, but you're unlikely to forget it. So it goes back to the your cue is always going to be there. You're never going to forget the bad habit. Some habits are going to be harder to overcome, obviously, especially whenever you have those cues pop up in your life. And this means that simply resisting temptation is an ineffective strategy. So I kind of liken it to, if I have junk food in the house, I have kids. So if I have junk food in the house and it's just sitting around, like there's ice cream in the refrigerator. And this is actually, I'm going to just give you a personal example. This last week, there was chips and salsa in the house with all the yummy stuff to put in to make a really delicious dip. And then there also was ice cream in the house. And I struggled. I had chips and salsa almost every day, or like a chips and salsa type meal every day. And then Sunday night, I had a quart-sized shake with cappuccino and chocolate syrup and caramel syrup in it, for like a nighttime snack with the family. I did not resist the urge. There was a cue. Everybody else was getting it. I saw it. I wanted it. I was feeling like I deserved it, and so I got it. And then, of course, now I feel like remorse and regret because I did not lose weight this week. So that's a personal example that the cues are always going to be there, and just resisting them is not always going to be easy. It's not going to be a long-term strategy. The environment change I need to make is not buying the things that I know I'm going to be tempted by, which is hard whenever you're talking about not buying ice cream for your family because they want ice cream. So a lot of times I can resist that, or I will actually remove myself from a situation or focus on something else as they're eating their ice cream, and that has helped. But last night, or was not last night, but Sunday night, I did not remove myself from the temptation. I did not change my environment. So I grabbed hold of that temptation. And then the last thing he said in this section, in this chapter of the book, was the first law of behavior, which he gave us, remember the 4 laws. The first law of behavior can change from make it obvious because we need to make it obvious. We need to make our cues obvious to make it invisible. So some things you need to remove completely out of your life in order to change the cue and change the environment so that you are not cued to do the bad habit, whatever that might be. So anyways, guys, that is those two chapters, 6 and 7. I thoroughly enjoyed them, and actually I'm going to be implementing this idea of environment change for my son's homeschooling. So my friend had told me a while back that he had heard somewhere or did some research or something where if you pick a spot that, because I was telling about how Curtis has trouble focusing, if you pick a spot, then they will associate that spot with getting the schoolwork done, and it will help them get things done. Well, I was like, no, I've heard that it makes them more creative and helps them think better and stuff and get better grades if they kind of float around to new environments. Well, after reading these two chapters, I've decided to try the method where I make a little homeschooling spot. So here in my bedroom, I am hopefully going to set up today a spot for my son to do his homeschooling at. I figured my bedroom will be a good place for him because when he comes in my bedroom, sometimes he'll sit on my bed. He'll come in here all by himself and just sit on my bed, and he will focus really good for a while just sitting on my bed. And so I figured this is a place where he already associates focusing. And so if I can get him to have a spot in here where he can focus for a dedicated amount of time, hopefully he will get all his school work done and be more focused doing it, more so than he is now. He's fallen behind in his studies, which is making it to where he's not going to be able to move forward like he wants to. And I've tried to explain that to him a little bit, but he's still pretty young and he doesn't quite understand the consequences behind not working hard before the end of the school year. And I've tried to put the lesson plan all together and make it make sense for him, but it's just not working out the way I would hope. So we're going to try that. We're going to try setting him up here in the bedroom with a little spot. I've thought through it in my mind, so today I'm going to be working on that. And maybe if I get it done, I'll throw up a picture or something for you guys so you can see it. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. I'm doing daily vlogs. I hope you guys are liking this book challenge, a book a week challenge. Today's day 20, I believe. So I'm enjoying it. I'm getting a lot from it. Anyway, I'll see you guys again tomorrow.